Hey there, this is Beverly Mitchell, Laura from Saw 2, and of course, Lucy from Seventh Heaven, and you're listening to the Don't Go Out There Horror Movie Review Podcast.
My name is Kaylee Ann Russell. The purpose of today's experiment is to prove that the object behind me is responsible for at least 45 deaths in the 4 centuries of its recorded existence.
In a world where zombies, ghosts, serial killers, and vampires all exist, it's Nico, Brian, Mike, and Dustin, and they are all that stand between you and the films that could end the world. Welcome to the Don't Go Out There Horror Movie Podcast.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Don't Go Out There Horror Movie Review Podcast. Just want to thank all our fans and listeners. We really appreciate the support. Before we jump into tonight's film review, we're just going to give a quick shout out to our social media. You know, we got the big three: Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. At Don't Go Out There, just search for that and you'll find us. You'll see Brian's awesome artwork. And just giving a quick shout out to our website. Same thing, don'tgoouthere.com. We got all of our episodes, our store, interviews, celebrity shout outs. It's all on there if you want to check that out. And tonight we have a guest on the show, a returning guest, Crystal from the Horror Nights In podcast. And tonight we're reviewing a movie she picked, Oculus. Crystal, go ahead and tell us why you picked Oculus and give us a general overview of it.
Okay. Hi, guys. Thank you so much for having me on again. I do apologize to your audience. My voice is doesn't sound as good as it usually does, but I'm going to do my best here. So the reason why I picked Oculus is because I actually haven't done this movie on my platform yet, and I really feel this film needed more than just me talking about it, because I feel like everybody, I feel, at least in the horror community, had so many different opinions on this film. So I wanted to kind of save it to talk to a group of people who either feel the same way or don't feel the same way. And I think it's just always been on my list, but I kind of held off for a while. So this is why when Nico and I were talking, I was like, we're going to do Oculus. So I'm really excited.
Well,
If
you want a mixture, this is definitely the podcast to be on.
Yeah,
exactly. That's why we were talking. I was like, I had a different film I wanted to do, but then I was like, you know what, let's do Oculus because I haven't done that one yet. So.
All right, my quick general overview is I remember the first time I watched this movie. It might have been on Netflix, honestly, a few years back. Really interesting concept. That's kind of a pro and a con to me whenever we get into our rating, the concept of the movie. I think the acting is great in this movie, personally.
Yeah.
It's kind of confusing, honestly, at the end, just, you know, when they jump from kid to grown up, but it's a fun movie to watch. It's a very interesting movie to watch. And the first one I watched it, the ending was kind of holy shit worthy because I wasn't expecting what happened. Really like this movie, though. Dustin, do you want to go next?
Yeah, I'll go next. I had never seen this movie until, I guess, at the tail end of last week. I watched it. I've watched it a couple times since then. I agree with the thought that it's an interesting concept. When I read the description, I was like, okay, this seems cool. The issue that I had with the movie was I feel like the nonlinear storytelling at the end jumbled it, and it became a bit of a clusterfuck to me. Now, I still, once I watched it the second time through, I appreciated it more than the first time. So I'm glad I did give it a second watch before we did this. But to me, it was too busy in the closing scenes and not busy enough, I guess, in the beginning to make it work as well as it could have. I love the casting. I thought that they knocked it out of the park with the casting because you didn't have a bunch of well-knowns. You went with relatively unknowns. I mean, Karen Gillan, this was her first American film that she did. And by doing that, you give a lot of people a platform to show and prove themselves that people aren't familiar with. But you also don't go into it thinking, you know, when you see an actor's or an actress's name, sometimes you have your mind made up about what their role is going to be. But by going with unknowns, their characters do all the talking. And I think that they did a good job in the casting of this film. Overall, I did enjoy it. I have some criticisms which we'll get to, but I kind of liked it upon second watch.
Yeah, I'd never seen this movie until this week either, and honestly, I loved it. I mean, it's just a simple idea, but the lack of backstory for the mirror, and to me, like the interweaving of the past and the present, is so well done. I thought like Dustin, Katie Sackhoff, and Karen Gillan really stole the show in this movie, and really show honestly like why they went on to do even bigger things. The coolest thing I think is that there's two ways you can view this film. You can look at it as a horror with like a paranormal mirror, which I know Mike isn't a fan of, spoiler alert, but or you can look at it as like a family going crazy, like Amityville type. So I really liked it a lot, and I'm looking forward to getting into it.
Yeah, it's a real interesting take on the mirrors subgenre of horror. You know what I'm saying? Mike is not with us right now. He's probably going to join us in a few minutes. So we'll let him catch up whenever he jumps in. Y'all ready to jump into scene by scene, y'all?
Ready.
Let's do it.
All right. The film starts with young Kaylee and Tim, and they run out of room as they see their dad with a gun. They see a ghost-like person, and their dad holds a gun towards Kaylee's face. He shoots, but it cuts to a grown Tim, who is telling his story to doctors. He's deemed a healthy, safe adult who will be discharged his 21st birthday out of the mental facility he's in. Kaylee walks into an auction room where she looks shook somewhat when she sees a mirror. Tim leaves the mental facility where he's greeted by his sister, Kaylee. She gives him his half of the estate at lunch. They start to catch up. She tells him she found it. She says they only have a few days to kill it. 11 years earlier, we see young Kaylee and Tim with their parents, Alan and Marie. They're moving into their home. They have fun playing laser tag, and we see a mirror brought into the dad's office, Alan. Kaylee takes Tim to his motel. Now, this is where they're grown up. She tells him, you promised that you to never forget, and it's going down tomorrow night, and she could use his help. Marie is looking at her scar, and Alan looks at it by kissing on her body, and he's starting to make moves on her. Alan goes to get a juice box at night, and he stubs his toe on like some of the moving boxes, and we see a quick ghost-like woman in the hallway. He goes to his office and notices the juice on his shirt. Kaylee and Michael are in bed. She wakes up when she hears a dog bark. She looks at herself in a mirror and approaches it. She turns, and her dad is there and is choking her. She awakes in a panic because she was having a nightmare, and her husband, Michael, calms her down. That's just the first two opening scenes. Brian?
Like the very first thing I have is, let me ask, he's going to be let go because he's dreaming of shooting his sister, and that's progress. So now he can be let go. So I'm just making sure I'm understanding this right. And fast fact here, apparently this movie could have been backed, as early as 2006, but the studios wanted director Mike Flanagan to agree to film it in the quote unquote found footage genre, but he refused. And I'm really glad he didn't. It helps this movie stand out, and I think had he done that, it would have just kind of been knocked to the side by, the Paranormal Activity franchise and stuff like that that's kind of continued on and gotten bigger. Dustin touched on this a little bit, but obviously she's huge now, being in the Marvel films as Nebula. But this being her first role, like her first American role, like Dustin said, it always amazes me when actors and actresses get rid of their accent the way they do. And that scene with Kaylee and Tim at lunch, and the music and the way she played those lines, I found it with that intense music. I mean, that's another thing. The soundtrack in this movie to me is amazing. I said it a little bit in the opening too. I love Katie Sackhoff. I'm a big Battlestar Galactica fan of the series that she was in, not the old ones, and I honestly love her in everything she's been in. She was even a bright spot in Halloween Resurrection, but we won't get too much into that movie. But this may be her best performance I've ever seen of anything she's been in, to me, honestly. To me, though, I will say that I don't think that they got the casting for Alan quite right. Nothing against Rory Cochrane, but it just doesn't seem, I don't know, like, to me, I don't really believe him and Marie, Katie Sackhoff, very honestly. And lastly, can I also say that, when Alan sees, is it Marcel? I can't pronounce it. For the first time, the lack of that typical quote unquote jump scare music, I loved that. And I think it happens a couple of times here, in this movie, and it really adds to the creepiness of it. And I really enjoy that.
Go ahead, Crystal. What are your thoughts on the first two scenes?
So I really feel like I would be like Kaylee. because I'm obsessed with like knowing who, what, why, when, how. The thing is though, I probably wouldn't drag my siblings with me though. I would probably kind of like do it by myself and be like, I'll figure it out. Don't worry about it. Like, just keep calling me, making sure I'm okay. I loved the character of Kaylee because I really, like I said, she was obsessed with something, a little bit too obsessed with it, of course, in my opinion. There were definitely some cheesy lines in the beginning from her when she said, like, oh, she said something about the mirror being hungry. And the thing is, like, the mirror, we never saw the mirror eat anybody. So I understand that it was probably more of a figurative line instead of a literal line. The only thing that we really saw it eat was maybe the dog, but we never got clarification on that. So there were definitely some cheesy lines in the beginning from her, but overall, I love the fact that she was just this like brilliantly bold female character who was like, this is what we're going to do and we're going to figure this out together, because I feel like that's what I would do in this situation. But yeah, the music is actually really good. I was watching something about it earlier, how they wanted it to be similar to like The Thing, and how the music was just a couple notes here and there, but it was like just enough for it to be jarring. So I thought that was really interesting how they did that. So yeah, I'd like the first couple scenes, but it was very quick. It was kind of just like, he's in the mental institution, he's getting out, they're going to lunch, then they're going to do this. So, but I liked it.
So I've been big in the past in my reviews about needing the tone to be set early in the film and needing it to grab my attention from the get-go. I think that they did exactly that in these scenes. They caught you up in a hurry. Like Crystal said there, it's you go from he's here to he's out to, here's the story. But it works for me. I do question that doctor's credentials, like Brian said. Just, you know what, you're dreaming about killing your sister. You've never had that part of your dream, but I think you're okay. Like, that's
that makes
well,
you
okay. So I do question that his legitimacy as a healthcare provider. But I like the opening scenes. I like how they do the flashbacks here. I think it works here because it's clear, it's defined. Here's a flashback. here's current present day, and it doesn't jumble like I mentioned it does kind of in the end of the film. I think that the scenes with the father here, I picked up a lot of. It reminded me of Jack Nicholson's character in The Shining. Once you see the whole thing, because as he becomes possessed or goes insane, whatever, it's kind of that same storyline. Like, he's supposed to be this family guy who loves his family in the first of the film, and then he just loses it and he's the villain. But I don't think that they did a good enough job in this opening scene of making me like him as a character for as much as I hate him later on. I wish that, because even in these scenes, he's kind of detached. They move in and she's like, were you just going to let me find the Visa bill? He goes, well, I was hoping to make that up to you with a 3-piece vanity. Like, if he would have been more playful, been more loving and nurturing in those scenes with his dialogue, with his character, I think that I would have appreciated it more. But overall, I don't think it takes away from these first two scenes. I actually really like this opening segment of the movie.
See, I agree with you, and I think that's probably why I have thinking, man, maybe he was miscast. I don't know, but maybe he was playing it like he was supposed to. I don't know, but maybe that's right. But I felt the same way about him.
Yeah, I didn't like the dad at all, but it also, maybe it's because it reminded me of my dad. We're not getting into a therapy session right now, but but there were definitely points, because like my dad has an office in my parents' house, and he was always like, don't go in the office. That's my office. If you need to go in there, you have to ask me first. So I think that's probably why I right off the bat just didn't like the dad at all, because it's like, it's just an office. Like, it doesn't need to be this huge thing. So that's why I immediately felt sympathy towards the mother and also towards the kids, because the dad. Oh, the thing also too, we didn't really know how the dad was before they moved into this particular house either, without the mirror.
Right.
So we didn't know if maybe he was like this loving, awesome, caring dad. And then all of a sudden, as soon as he was put in the same place as this mirror, he automatically was, possessed, or however you want to look at it from your point of view. So I think that was one of the things they could have added, maybe to see, or even if it was just a line from the kids saying like, what happened to dad? Like, dad is acting weird. And I know that they do talk about it a little bit, but like, I feel, yeah, I definitely didn't like the dad. I had so much sympathy towards the mother and the kids in this film. So.
Yep.
All right, brother Roy Cochran. I'm a fan. I'm one of the only four, I guess. All right. Next day, Michael tells her she got her own printer so the others won't see the crime picture she's been printing. Kaylee tells the mover she'll take the mirror to the repair shop. She pulls the sheet off of it and says hello again to it. The covered statue's head moves in the reflection of the mirror. She goes to them, and they're all just regular statues. And like Brian said earlier, we didn't get a jump scare with Mary Saul the first time we see her, but we get a crappy jump scare here with this mover coming back into the room, and it really made me mad. I'll see you at home, Kaylee tells the mirror. Tim calls Kaylee, says he wants to talk to her. She says, meet me at the house. And now Marie, she notices all of her plants are dying inside. Alan hears strange whispers in his office. The kids are playing, laser tag outside. And Kaylee, she runs into the bushes by her dad's office window, and she looks in and she sees a woman standing over her dad. At dinner, Kaylee complains she doesn't have a phone. Then she asks her dad, who is the lady in the office? He says, what lady? And walks off. Tim and Kaylee get to their childhood home, and she lets a dog free. Tim looks around for old time's sake. The two bring the mirror inside of the office. He notices an anchor on the ceiling. Kaylee now gets up. She sets up her cameras and her laptops. She records a video telling her setup before she hangs the mirror. Alarms are set up to eat, drink, and for the temperature changes. She says the mirror has a supernatural power and responsible for 45 deaths in its 4 centuries of existence. She reveals the victims of the mirror to the camera. She gets distracted when she sees flashbacks of their family dog, and then the alarm goes off for them to eat. I really like that those two scenes there. Crystal, you want to go first?
Yeah, this scene where Kaylee is explaining how the mirror has killed over 400 people, I think, in like 48 years or something like that, was so cool. And I remember I was watching something about it, and before it was released, they actually wanted, the critics actually wanted the production company to cut the scene because it was 13 minutes long in the same area of just Kaylee talking about this, and they wanted to cut to actual scenes from the story she was explaining, but Mike Flanagan was like, no, I'm going to fight against that. It needs to be like one solid flow of a story. And that's actually one of my favorite scenes from the whole film, is when she's explaining all these deaths, because it was so cool. Like, she would just flash the pictures on top of this in front of the camera and all that. And another thing that I thought was kind of funny was how her fiance yelled at her or said something to her about printing the crime scene photos at work, because it's like, can't you do that somewhere else?
Yeah.
It was just funny, and I understand why they did it, of course, to add more, emphasis and exclamation on the photos and things like that, but it was just funny. That was a little weird. But I did really like this scene. Once again, it's going pretty quickly. Like, there's a lot of cut scenes here, and you're just trying to keep up. So I think for this podcast, for this show, I think this was maybe the 4th time I had watched the film, and I still was like getting myself confused. But yes, the scene where she's explaining how all the deaths are occurring and where the mirror is moving, but you never really find out where the lesser glass actually is from, is so cool. So I really liked this scene a lot.
Go ahead, Dustin.
Yeah, I agree. These are some great scenes. First of all, the jump scare. I know you've already shit on it, but I'm going to do it again because it's unnecessary. Like, what? Who walks in that quietly? Like, he was trying to scare her, dick. All right. Little fun fact. So when they're at the auction, the auctioneer mentions that it was acquired from the Levesque estate. And this film was filmed by WWE Studios. WWE wrestler Triple H's real last name is Levesque, but that's actually a coincidence because this film was in production and had already screened at the Toronto Film Festival before WWE got involved. But that was just kind of one of those weird coincidences because it's not a common last name. I really like Kaylee setting up the showing the detail and the lengths that she went to, showing all the work that she put in to set up this extravagant precautions and measures in this room to finally kill it, because that's going to come into play later. Her obsession became her undoing, and without seeing the depths of her obsession, you wouldn't have appreciated it as much. And so she really went above and beyond, printing out all the crime scenes at work. Just the fact that she was able to find all that. The mirror was undocumented or unaccounted for so long, but then we found it, and that was I really like those scenes, and I think that Karen Gillan acted her ass off in those scenes to portray the obsession and the lengths that she was willing to go to prove the innocence.
Brother, when a woman wants to know something, she will know. She will find out what she wants to know.
That's why I liked her. That's why I like her, because I was like, that's what I would do.
Oh yeah. Go ahead, Brian.
Little fun fact: the warehouse guy that's in charge of Scott Graham, who actually played the main character Tim Russell in that short film version of Oculus. So that was a nice little callback there. I also have a note about some really good. I really like the cinematography choice by Flanagan here to go like overhead whenever she's approaching the mirror at first. I thought that added a lot right before that subtle movement by the sheets. But and honestly, I mean, I know you guys don't like the jump scare, but I really liked it. The fact that there was no big loud musical cue with it, that part I did like. So yeah, it was a little bit of a cheesy jump scare, but at least it did it without the loud music cue, like I said. I agree with Crystal though. I really like how there's no motivation at all given why the mirror is evil that's answered at all. It's just evil, and I think that's great. I mean, if you want to believe that part, you could go with the whole family being crazy thing. But, I mean, it gives the history of the glass, but there's no motivation or explanation, and I really like that. I also like, that little at the dinner when she gave that little subtle hint about the girl being in the office. I love how this mirror like affects both of them differently. With Alan, it affects him directly, but like with Marie, it basically manipulates everyone around her to kind of feed her insecurities, like the other woman or that cow comment that comes later. And look, holy shit, I understand the weights on the boat anchor and how the mirror won't let a person knowingly harm it and stuff, but it can't stop, but it can't stop unforeseen circumstances. I'm taking it from the incident where got the crack, but for God's sakes, why are we walking under it like it's no big deal and like it couldn't just fall and kill you at any time? Like every time they were walking near that mirror and that thing was there over top, I was like, yeah, and you guys, somebody's going to get it at some point. So.
That's true. I didn't even think about that. I didn't. I was like, oh my God, the mirror could just use itself to kill the other person. It could just fall on them.
Hey, Brian, you know how you mentioned there's no backstory on the mirror. Don't worry, Rob Zombie will do it. He'll do a backstory on it.
All right, you know what? I'm sick of this.
I'm ready.
I'm sick of this.
Sorry, Dustin. Had to get the joke in there. All right.
God.
The two eat now, and she slaps Tim when he says their dad was sick. She resumes discussing the victims. Tim argues with her again. She gets to their story, now. Mother tortured, mother murdered in the family home after psychological breakdown. Husband shot to death by the son. Kaylee wants to prove all of them were victims to the mirror. Tim says, why not just smash it then? It cuts to where they were young trying to break it. She says, you don't remember. Go ahead and try and smash it. He grabs a chair and pulls the sheet off the mirror and starts to talk to her. She asks, why'd you put the stool down? She now reveals the only documented person to try and destroy the mirror killed himself walking into traffic after the failed attempt. She shows him now how the anchor works. Alan is typing. I really like this scene, guys. Alan is typing and he pulls his Band-Aid off. He resumes and notices the Band-Aid is back on his finger. He uses the staple remover to get it off, then realizes he's ripping his fingernail off, and he hears whispers from the mirrors. He notices a book on the ground by the mirror. He calls the kids into the office and questions the kids why all the books are on the floor and to quit messing with their mom's plants. Tim and Kaylee now discuss the plants, all still alive in the house. She covers the now caged dog in front of the mirror. Tim sees the family dog on the floor, and it cuts to them now as kids, and the dog is lying down, not moving. Marie tells Alan she doesn't like the gun. She walks out and hears grotesque cow. She asks, "What did you say?" Then sees her reflection in the mirror. She wakes up when she hears a dog barking at the office. It bites her, and she goes into Alan's office. She says, "You're lost in your own world when you're in here." Dad goes to golf and tells kids to stay out of the office. Dog's barking at the office door again. And she lets the dog in there and now can't get the door open. Alan gets home and she says, "We got to do something about the dog," but it's gone now. Now the two argue about what happened to the dog. Tim says the dog was sick and, all of that. They debate psychology now. He uncovers the caged dog in front of the mirror and is doing fine in the cage. Kaylee wakes up and hears her parents arguing again. Mom tucks them back into bed. Kaylee says, "You have to remember seeing that woman." It cuts to them playing tag, and Tim says Dad was having an affair. Kaylee researched all of his banking history, etc., and there were no signs of an affair. She says they did a bang-up job in the hospital of, having him forget everything. Tim lets the dog free. Tim says, "Nothing you said would happen has happened." Tim says, "Let's get out of here," and she starts to cry. And let's shut it all down and leave it. And now this is where all the action starts to pick up. Brian, do you want to go first, man?
Sure. Yeah, like you said, watching the mirror fuck with Tom, as he tears his fingernail off, and then, as you can hear the mirror convince himself that it's painless, saying it doesn't hurt, and showing how all those people basically in Kaylee's pictures of the past were able to mutilate themselves like that. It took me 2 viewings to really hear that and get that, and I thought that was really awesome when I finally heard it. One of the things that really works for me in this whole movie is the tension building and how it's rooted in this really fucked up family situation at home. So you can see that really start to propagate in these scenes with Alan, and to me, the non-linear storytelling really kicks into high gear in these scenes, I think, and from here on out. And people said it online, it reminded them of Sidious 2, the way the characters crossed over, but I've never really seen that movie. So to me, it reminded me a lot of It and how it connects the kids to the present day. But, more so as the movie moves from this point, it gets confusing to the audience if this is the past or the present. It's a little blurred, and it's almost unrelenting tension moving forward, and I really like that. Honestly, I liked how they played up the misremembering memories and, and how you as an audience member, even start to doubt if all this is in her head or if it's really supernatural, which, is the other side of this film. It just, is it all in their heads because they're crazy? I really like that. And I wish they would have played that up a little bit more, as the movie going on, because they kind of left that, just in these scenes pretty much. And admittedly, though, and that's the problem, I think, with this being based on a short film, there's too much flashback filler to try to fill the time to me, and we know where the flashbacks end up eventually, so I think it's just a little too much, and these scenes to me are a little bit of example of that.
Go ahead, Dustin.
Yeah, no, I agree. So going back to the fingernail scene, I mean, that's when you realize, okay, this mirror is really fucking with them. The line grotesque cow. No one who talks like that, man. Come on. That's one of the major beefs I have with this movie was that particular line. Call her something else. You can insult people without saying grotesque cow, because I've never strung those words together in my life until right now. These scenes is where the dad being not a likable character at the beginning actually makes it work, though, because now you're okay, it's understandable why she would believe he's cheating on her or having these extramarital affairs, because he didn't seem that pleasant to begin with.
Exactly.
Her going on about the dog going in there, that even plays into it too, because it's the dog knows something up in the office. Maybe the dog knows about the woman too, and so that's where my mind took it. And then they did a great job of Tim explaining to Kaylee, you're imagining this, but the Kaylee rebuttal, her rebuttal saying they really did a great job in the hospital wiping your memory. As an audience, you kind of torn both ways. Okay, you can see to where Kaylee's stuff has made sense up and now. Like, you can see this because, you're watching a horror film, so maybe there is something supernatural. You saw the thing move in the mirror in the warehouse. But then from the other side of it, you can relate to Tim because you're like, this is too crazy to believe. She didn't get the counseling, so she's got her brain has made these memories up to protect her from what really happened. And so these scenes do a great job of building that tension of whose side are we on? Who do we believe? Who do we trust here? But like you said, I do think this is where the nonlinear storytelling kind of becomes too much. Like the flashbacks kind of become too much. It doesn't take away from it to the point to where it makes you not like it, but it's like, this is where it starts to where it's just present, past, past, present. And you kind of get lost in the sauce a little bit. And so it can take away from the movie. If you get a text message and look up, you're fucked. So, but other than that, I enjoy it. I still enjoy the movie to these parts. So it's just those things there. Never call anyone a grotesque cow. There's better words to insult people.
That's funny. Yeah, the scene with the fingernail was probably so gross, and they did revisit it towards the as things start to get crazier. I used to wear, before the pandemic, I used to have like acrylic fingernails, so like fake nails, and if you accidentally hit one of them, it literally ripped your entire nail off. And I saw that scene, and it just reminded me of that. And because I just, especially on the weekends, like when I was bartending and things, it's very easy to like accidentally hit it against something when you're busy. So that scene, I hated that scene because I hate anything that has to do with like Chinese water torture of nails and things like that. So I hated that scene. I also really liked, so one thing that I always say at my reviews of films is I always want to know what happens after. And I feel like I kind of got that a little bit. So we have the brother who decides to go to get help. And then we have the sister who decides not to go get help. And then we kind of see how that transpires as they move into this adulthood. Because I think that's a lot of at least what I feel when I watch films, is I always want to know what happens to the victims or the survivor. I guess I would say survivors. There's survivors after something happens. I always want to know, like, did they go seek professional help? Did they just spiral into darkness? What happened to them? And I think this film gives us a little bit of an insight to what happened to the siblings. And I did like that. Yes, this is definitely the part of the film where it starts to get kind of confusing, because at least in the beginning it was a little bit more spoon-fed to us. Like, okay, we're going to have a flashback now. And now it's like, okay, now we're not going to have one anymore. You just kind of have to figure it out yourself. Which I liked that. It also, what I really like about this film is it taps into the fear of like family dysfunction and how affairs and body image play like a huge role. Because when couples get together, obviously then they decide to get married and have babies, it takes a toll on the mother's body, and the mother might not be as, her confidence might be a little bit lower. That's where you have affairs coming in, especially a mother who has 2 kids, her body was sacrificed for it. She could go through some trauma depending on things like that. And the father, yes, the male figure in a family, his appearance can change also, but it's not as much mentally, physically, or emotionally as a woman's body. So I think that it was good that they brought that up, that she was having a little bit of trouble with her self-esteem and her self-image. And I found that was really good, because you not only have like the scary aspect of it, because yes, it is a haunted object, a haunted mirror, but then you also have this completely crazy family dysfunction going on. And like I said before, like, we don't know the relationship of the mother and the father. Like, maybe they moved to this house so that they could have a new beginning. Maybe he had an affair before. So that's what I really like about this film too, is it kind of just, and the psychological aspect of it too as well, because I mean, even though the doctor was probably a crooked doctor, but I don't want to say anything about that because that was a little weird, but yeah, there's a lot of different elements to the film that I enjoyed up until this point.
All right, Kaylee goes into the room and she gets our first sign of some mirror activity. All the plants are dead and the cameras are facing each other now and not the mirror. She reviews the tapes, and it shows them two moving the cameras towards each other, and they both don't remember doing it. Tim wants to go call his doctor. They walk out. Kaylee says its radius is 30 feet because the plants in the kitchen are starting to die. Tim calls his doctor outside, but he's on the ground in the house now. Flashback to them playing video games. Kaylee sees her mom just staring into the mirror. She drinks. Now she's at dinner now, drinking wine, and feeds him burnt grilled cheese sandwiches. She asks Kaylee more about the woman in the office. I haven't seen her, she says. Tim says he saw her last night by the office. She sends the kids upstairs and goes to the office to snoop around. She sees the name Mary Saul written all over, several of Alan's papers. She knocks everything off the desk in anger, and she sees the broken family portrait. She sees the pen holder, and she throws it at the mirror, and then the mirror shrieks at her, and she sees a different reflection of herself in the mirror. It reaches towards her scar. It reaches towards her scar on her stomach, and now it's oozing, and her eyes are ghosted. It's like the reflective look now. The kids go downstairs to check on her, and she starts to choke Tim. They break free, and she chases after them, banging on the door. Alan gets home, and he restrains her after she attacks him, and she passes out. Go back in your room. Mommy's all right, he says frantically. He tries to call the ER, but the mirror interferes. He drags her into the room, and the kids start to cry. Kaylee she sets the cameras back up. Alan tells the kids Mom is sick and stay out of the room. Dad doesn't answer any of their questions they ask. The alarm goes off, and they eat apples again. Tim changes a blown-out light bulb, and Kaylee sees a flashback to their dad and taking food to their mom. The bulb goes out again. She sets her apple down and changes it, but the light blows out immediately. She sets the blown bulb by her apple and changes the bulb again. She grabs the apple and takes a bite, but we hear glass shatter and we see it falling on the ground. She spits blood and pulls out a piece of glass out of her mouth. Tim calls her, and it's just an apple in her hand. She says, we need to stay together. I was like, yeah, you probably just need to leave this damn house, to be honest with you.
Get out of there.
Tim is watching cartoons now, and the TV goes out. The two kids hear noises upstairs, and they notice they have no food. They tell their dad, and he's lost in a trance. Everything is on his list, he keeps saying. Kaylee goes to tell her mom they have no food. She goes in the room and doesn't see her mom. She sees broken plates on the ground. And then the mom, runs at her, but she's chained to the wall like a dog. She tells Dad they need to see a doctor, and he grounds them. Kaylee tries to call doctors, but they all keep saying to have their dad call. It's the mirror interfering. Kaylee gets a neighbor to the house, and we see Alan's pulling all of his fingernails off. He gives the kids an evil stare. Kaylee tells Tim they have to get brave. Welcome back, Mike. Do you want to never mind. We'll let's let Crystal go because she brought up the thing about the fingernails.
Yeah, let's go there first. Hi, everybody. Sorry about this.
Crystal brought up the fingernails thing. What do you think? Yeah, tell us about that visual of the fingernails.
Disgusting. It was so gross. And I was at work this weekend, and I went to go grab something, and I pulled back the skin of my middle finger here. So, and of course, when I was watching the film today, I was like, why do all these things happen to my fingernails when I'm watching Oculus? It was just so gross, and it was so subtle because you see the neighbor come over, ask about everything that was going on. You see the dad asking, and it's funny though, I actually was watching something earlier, and these scenes were actually shot, I think, before, and the actor, he was sick with the flu. So he looked like he was a different shade of because he was sick. So, and his voice was a little bit deeper. So, and then of course, when they pan back and you see his hand leaning against the thing and there's blood all over it, it was so disgusting. It was so gross. Also, I can never look at a light bulb the same way either after seeing this film because
Right.
Every time I go to change a light bulb anywhere in my apartment, I always think of that disgusting scene or when I eat an apple. I mean, I cut apples, so I guess that's all right. But still, anytime I change a light bulb, I always think of this scene and I think this was one of the most, this was probably I know this was used in the trailer, So a lot of people were when the trailer dropped, everybody's like, "Oh my God, did you see that movie about that girl that bites into an apple, but it's actually a light bulb?" So I think that was that part's really gross. But then of course you see that she actually is not biting into a light bulb. It's the apple. It's just the mirror that's controlling. And I think this is when we start to realize that the mirror is controlling everything. It can alter reality so much that we're not even sure what we're seeing is real anymore. And I think that's where it kind of gets like confusing. And I just remember the first time I saw it, I like shifted in my chair because I was like, I don't know what's going on. And I don't know where we are. I don't know who I'm looking at. I don't know if any of this is real. Is she just going to wake up with another nightmare again and it's all fake? I don't know what's going on. So, yeah, that's how I feel about that.
Right.
Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, can I just say wow on these performances though? I mean, Karen's crying performance and the kids' performances of Annalise Basso and Garrett Ryan. Again, we've talked so much about hit and miss performances from kids, but to me, like these are just amazing. And fun fact, Garrett Ryan, the actor who plays the younger Tim, is in 2 movies where he like senses his future older self. The first is this movie, and the second one's Insidious Chapter 2, where he actually plays like a young Josh too. The apple's the light bulb scene. Yeah, Crystal's right. It was in the trailer, and I honestly hate that it was in the trailer because I like stuff to kind of be surprise you. But that just shows you right there that at this point Kaylee's confident, nervous, but seems confident in like all of the precautions and everything. But this scene right here shows you she's still in over her head and either losing her mind more or under the influence of the mirror more, depending on which route you believe there. And this is the first time we really see the mirrored eyes too, and I fucking love those. It's like you look into their eyes and all you see is yourself, like the mirror, and it takes all of your fears and kind of makes you immediately face them. And I love all the subtext of all that. And lastly, also, what the fuck with the neighbor? I mean, I'm not sure what Kaylee told the neighbor, but my father chained up my mother should be enough that you would think would garner a little bit bigger of a response than that. So that was my last thing on those scenes.
Go ahead, Dustin.
Yeah, no, you said it, man. That neighbor is the shittiest neighbor. Like, what a passive asshole. The Apple scene. This movie has a couple scenes that just make me cringe and uncomfortable. And weirdly enough, the fingernail scene's not one of them. Like when with the Band-Aid in the beginning, like that's okay. That's okay. But when she bites the light bulb and then it shows her mom biting into the plate, for some reason, man, the thought of chewing glass just makes my skin crawl. And they did it twice, those assholes. Yeah, the whole thing with going back to it, the whole thing with the cameras pointing at each other and them realizing, oh shit, it is working. Like that's brilliantly done, because that's where you realize that Kaylee was the one that was right. And that's when the flip switch to, this is an interesting movie, I don't know what to believe, what's real, what's not, to, oh shit, now it's tense. I've got goosebumps from here on out, basically. I agree with the mirrored eyes. I think that's brilliantly done, because it's a telltale for the rest of the movie of, it can let you know like what scene we're in, if this is present or if it's past, because there's certain scenes where they would show the mom or the dad and the eyes are mirrored, and it's like, okay, it's instantly, I know what's going on here. Yeah, I mean, you pretty much said what I had in my notes, actually, so I'll leave it with this. That mom can't chase kids for shit. She's not a very good mom.
Why all of a sudden did she become like this ravenous animal who eats plates? Like, where did that come from?
Right. Well, yeah.
Like, it was never explained.
That's another thing. I can't remember. One of you guys earlier said something about you could tell it's affecting people differently, but I don't think that it was really explained as much. Like, she just went from, okay, I hate my self-image, to now I want to eat my children. And the dad, he doesn't want to kill anyone. He just wants to chain the mom up and be an asshole to the kids. Like, he doesn't want to hurt the kids at this point. He's just an asshole, because realistically, if the kids are going to tell the neighbor, hey, my dad's pretty much killed my mom and I'm afraid for my life now, and the dad finds out, he's probably going to kill him. But no, instead you're grounded. Get out of here. But
yeah.
Hello, everyone. Sorry about my tardiness. So what I will say, I'm so glad you said that, Crystal, because I love the acting in these scenes, in this set of scenes. I think the portrayals are really good, especially the mom. I think there's a lot of really good emotional acting there, so it does pull me in. But this is the set of scenes, like you mentioned, where I get a little confused. I'm not like over, like I don't know where I am or where I'm like super lost, but I do get a little off of the movie path a little bit here in this set of scenes, just because there's a lot of back and forth, and there's a lot of you don't know what's real and what's not real. Like you guys talked about, the eating of the light bulb is gross. It's that's a toughie any day of the week. Same thing with the fingernails. Same thing, but you mentioned there's a lot of rust here, in my opinion. They don't do a great job setting some of the character up. Like there's a lot of lack of character development that happens really quick. A lot of they're kind of normal, kind of now the mirror's kind of starting to control things, and then bam, like you said, dad wants to be a weirdo that ties people up, and the mom is just like this. Like it all happened really fast, and it kind of drug these scenes down, in my opinion. And you guys pretty much mentioned everything else, but I do like the mirror eyes. I will say that it's a big plus for me. But these scenes get a little, to me, they just get a little confusing compared to some of the earlier ones where I was like, I got it, and then they kind of lost me a little bit here. But I love the acting. Like I think the acting from everyone involved in these scenes is really, really damn good. So strong performances across the board by both kids, especially.
I think the mirrored eyes were kind of cheesy, but that's just my opinion.
It's understandable. It's understandable. By the way,
I understand that they were trying to show you the difference between the humans or the real people and the ghosts that the mirror ate, but then again, it was very subtle. So it was in the beginning when you first see Marisol and you see that she's like behind him, that was scary. But then at the end, I was like, I don't really know how I feel about the mirrored eyes, but I understand it.
right. And
Yeah,
just
like I
so
said,
we're
I
clear,
really liked the subtext of the mirror eyes. I
Oh
guess
yeah,
that, that
absolutely.
that's what I really like.
That's really cool, but I wish that they
Yep.
had done it just maybe a little bit differently. But then again, I understand why it was done. It was very scary, especially when you see them all like lined up. Like that was scary, but I don't know. Not my
so
favorite.
before you go ahead, Nico, if I haven't said this before, I should probably say it now,
Damn it,
since I'm
no.
only on for the last couple scenes. All I'm gonna say is that no, it's not that. It's not what you
Oh,
think.
okay.
I'm giving our fans a heads up. Haunting and possession movies do not do anything for me. But if there's good acting and there's good cinematography and there's good direction, I can still give it positive things to say. But as far as the plot of this movie, I wish I had mentioned it in the like. I wish I had been on for the opening things. I'm just going to say the plot of this movie does nothing for me. But there's good acting and there's a lot of other good in here that makes it a decent horror movie. But the plot lost me from the very beginning. But that's just a personal preference. So fans should know that ahead of time. That's all.
All right, Kaylee is standing in front of the mirror now, and she runs to reset the anchor timer. Tim goes into his room and stares at his younger self. Young Tim sees Kaylee downstairs. She turns on the emergency lights because the power is out. She grabs a piece of broken glass. Young Tim goes in Dad's office to ask him to fix the lights. Marisol's spirit is above him, and he falls out the door as she charges him. He runs upstairs and hides in his room, and old Tim sees his younger self run in. Kaylee looks, through her phone's camera and doesn't see any of the broken glass. She turns around and she sees her mom's spirit, and she stabs her in the neck, but it's actually her fiance, Michael. Tim walks down and sees him dead. Kaylee's phone rings and it's Michael checking in. She says it's a trick. The glass wasn't real. She now sees him dead through her phone camera. She cries as she embraces him. The two walk outside and Tim calls for police and ambulance help. The power comes back on and they see themselves inside. Tim calls 911 again and they say, have your father call. Tim says they have to get brave. Alan is standing in front of the mirror. He gets the gun out the drawer and loads it. Tim tells Kaylee what he saw. They walk in the room and see themselves staring into the mirror. Then the lights go out, and Marisol walks towards them, saying not to play in here in their father's voice. The two kids run off. Marie breaks a plate and eats more glass. Alan walks in with a gun. He holds the gun to her head, but lets her free from the chain. Older Tim and Kaylee open the door, and we see the mom. Now they're young again, and the mother's knocking stops. She says, we got to get downstairs. She opens the door, and they run for the stairs. She hits her mom with a golf club, and young Kaylee jumps out the window. She hobbles around out front, and she sees Marisol and another ghost-like person. Old Tim sees his dad. Young Kaylee sees a gunshot from outside. She goes back inside. Older Kaylee sees Michael in a spirit form. She calls for Tim. Mom attacks young Kaylee and is choking her. Alan appears and shoots her in the back as she lets go, realizing what she's doing. Kaylee and Tim run away, seeing the spirits. Alan shoots Marie one more time, killing her. And the next scene is the ending. Brian, do you want to go first, brother?
Sure. So that was Marisol coming out there with Dad's voice, because like I kept getting her. I kept
That was
getting her
creepy,
and
by the
Katie
way. That was
mixed
good
up.
stuff.
Yeah, I kept getting them mixed up there. I thought that was Katie Sackhoff's character, honestly, for a while. But look, at this point, past and present scenes, they're absolutely interwoven, and she has zero control anymore, and the mindfuck is right here as at a 10. And this set of scenes very much so has my attention. The tension level for me is like super high. But also at this point, I'm way more interested in the present, and almost every time it flashes back, it kind of gets on my nerves. So I'm not at all with the past, honestly, right here. And because we've already pretty much seen how that past ends, and so I'm not really interested in that as much. Lastly, just there's the best shot of the mirror eyes to me in the whole movie here. Again, and I mostly love the subtext of those eyes, like I said, and I love the flashes of Marisol. And I didn't catch the other entity that flashed on the other side of him whenever he was going to shoot her, but that was a great effect, regardless.
First of all, why did she just like haul off and kick the shit out of that plant? That could have saved her a lot of heartache in a minute. Like, okay, the plant's dead, but there's no reason just to cause a mess. All right. When they're running through the house and she just turns around and pulls the Eden Nordgren on the mom, aka hits her with the 9-iron. Like, why didn't they try that before? If they could hit them and affect them with hitting them stuff, why didn't they never once tried to swing on Marisol, and she was the one scaring the shit out in the whole movie. And so, what she was an entity, so they may not have hit her, but you don't know unless you try it. And so that was kind of like, all right. When she stabs her boyfriend in the neck, I hated that, because first of all, if you roll up and all the lights are off in the house, why are you creeping around and sneaking up on your girlfriend when you like make some noise? Be like, hello, anyone home? But he just walks in all sneaky like he's trying to cop a feel or something. She stabs him in the neck. He kind of deserved it, pervert.
But we never 100% got that was him, correct?
Right.
I know that it was like iffy, but that was like
right.
That's something I do wish they kind of would have said at the end, like a little bit, if that was real or if that wasn't, for sure.
Yeah. Well, see, no, it was real, because when
I think the boyfriend was in the mirror in the window or something, right, at the end. Maybe?
That
Yeah,
and
his spirit was in a trance whenever they walked back in, when she walked back in the house.
And when she takes her cell phone camera, which by the way, Apple must have been a sponsor of this movie, because she had the nice Apple computers in there. Yep. The Apple on the iPhone was very visible the whole film. But she takes her phone and she shows it on the floor. She's like, no, the plate's gone. And so that's how she knew it was a trick. Another nitpick, I hate that they call it trick. Like, you couldn't come up with any other word in the entire dictionary. You had to use the word trick. Like, I don't know, that irked me a little bit. But then she scans up and she sees him in the phone, in the camera. That's when she realized it was real. And so he kind of deserved it, like I said. Even if whatever's going on, you're unsure, you think that because she gave you instructions, if I don't answer or whatever, my brother might have killed me. Make some noise when you walk into a dark-ass house. God.
But Dustin, he might have. It could have been the mirror playing tricks on them.
It could have.
You never know. He could have been like, hello.
That's true. So maybe from that perspective, then you alert the audience that he's in the house and you have him yelling.
Oh, I agree.
It flashed to her and she didn't hear anything. I don't know. I just think that
would have been that would have been really cool if they would have done that, because then you could switch over. But then, I want to bring a point. Could you imagine editing this movie?
I was gonna say,
God,
nightmare.
No. Which
Like I edit for my regular like 9 to 5 job, and it's like edit videos and stuff. And I couldn't imagine the editing. I would get myself so confused if I
right.
was editing this movie.
Which I did read that Flanagan wrote the flashback scenes in italics so that everyone knew what was flashback and not. That's nice. I wish I could have watched it in italics because this is where I get
Yes.
confused.
Yes.
This is
Yes.
when there's too much going on. It's too busy for me. Like I enjoyed the flashbacks and the nonlinear storytelling up until this point, but when you've got older Kaylee walking by younger Kaylee on the stairs and like what, it's just too much. It's too much. And then, yeah. So these scenes are chaos, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but I don't mean it in a good way. I think it's just chaos for the sake of chaos, and it did a good job of making you pay attention because, like you said, Brian, it does capture your attention because you have to pay attention. If you turn your head for a second here, you're going to miss something, and you're going to have to rewind to catch what it was.
Which I did.
Before you go, Chris, I want to agree with you, Dustin. This is where it gets really, really hard
It is.
to pay attention to everything, and that's the biggest reason why I was honestly kind of nervous to ever pick this movie. Is just because you have young Tim and old Tim walking by each other. And
That's what it was, yeah.
Kaylee.
Yep.
I think young Kaylee and old Kaylee walk by each other too. I mean, who knows? There's so much chaos going on, like you said. It's very intimidating from a note-taking point. There's young then old and young then old, but at the very end, the young and old is affected. But right now, it's too much. I agree.
Right. Well, and like when young Kaylee's on the outside and she sees the gunshot, like it was adult on the inside that pulled the trigger, right? I thought. I don't know. It was too much.
This is why I picked this film, because I knew that Nico had to make the notes, so I didn't have to.
That's why Brian's having to do edits tonight.
I was like, I don't want to do this film. I'm just kidding. Yes, it was chaos, absolutely. And if you looked away for even 1 second, you would have absolutely no idea what was going on. I also like the fact that, and I didn't know this until I actually looked it up, the actress for Marisol is actually the same actress that was in Hush, who's actually married to Mike Flanagan.
Okay.
So I thought that was cool. So if you guys, I don't think you guys have done Hush before, but I feel like I've talked about it before.
Love Hush.
Yeah, it's the same actress who plays the demon, who's also married to. So actually, what I found out, which was really cool, is that I guess Rory was wrapped. He was done with the movie, but then they forgot to add in that last scene. So they used his voiceover and had Marisol just mouth it, and it actually worked out pretty well. Because I know a lot of people I really like that part because we never really find out who she is. The thing is, what the mirror does, the mirror usually, the last victim that the mirror eats, or whatever you want to call it, is who the mirror uses for the next killing. And so, unless I missed it, but I don't think we ever really find out who she is. I think she creates the chaos. Whatever the entity is from the previous kill is creating the next set of chaos.
Right.
So what I think the mirror did was
She was the one that had the miscarriage, right?
I think, yeah, she was. So what happened was the mirror feeds on negativity. So it used the emotions that the characters were feeling and used it against them. So the mirror knew that the mom was insecure about her body, so she made it look like the father was having an affair to create this chaos kind of thing. That's why the mom never saw her until later. That's why the kids only saw it, because then the kids could ask, and the mirror obviously knew that the kids would bring it up kind of thing. Another thing that I found out about the film is that because the kids couldn't really be manipulated too much by the mirror was because they didn't understand trauma the way that adults understand trauma. So there were things that just well, why didn't the mirror control the kids? And it was the mirror can't control the kids because for the most part, kids aren't very, they don't have a lot of trauma. They're not super negative. But then we saw that they were being manipulated as they got older because they went through trauma. So I thought that was interesting. But yeah, it was, by the end, it was sort of you have to pause it and be okay, what's going on again? So confusing.
Right. You guys said a lot of what I have to say, but it's it's worth repeating here that okay, it's not so much that I think all the chaos is a bad thing. I'm not a huge fan of this chunk going back and forth so much. I do get a little, again, I almost get more confused, and I'm already a little confused. Maybe I'm just dumb. That's possible as well. But what I will say is I think, and I said it while I was watching it, I was like, this would make a great miniseries. Like, so you could have time to flesh some of the more of these stories out, because you mentioned the boyfriend. I would have hit that home a little more, like flesh that out a little bit. Let's flesh some of the younger the scenes with the kids. I would have liked to see a little bit more, but I mean, they had to cram everything into an hour and 40, so this is why you start to get so much back and forth. And again, the mirror's playing tricks. So it's not that I don't like it. It just becomes a little. I had to stop and start a couple times, like rewind, go back. What did I miss? Like, I want to make sure I'm understand. I want to make sure I'm understanding what I'm watching. You know what I mean? I will say I agree with Brian. I love the acting by the kids. I think it's great, and that's why I think it would make a great miniseries.
I think it wasn't it?
Was it?
Didn't they?
Well,
They no.
It was some short films.
It
I
was
think it was
short.
like 3 of them.
Yeah.
See, now that okay, that's great. I'm glad I know that now. But I'm with you, Brian. At this point, I want to see the adults. Like
You're back. You're agreeing with me. We're back, baby. Back. We're back.
I want to. Hey, relax. I want to see the adults at this point, just because I feel like we've kind of shut the book on the kids part. Let's get to modern day, current day stuff. But again, tension is great in these scenes. There's a lot going on, so again, you can't look away. So you have my attention. I'm not 100% on board with everything they did here, but I will give them credit for the way it's shot, the cinematography. I love the acting. Again, I like all those things about this movie, but I love the dad voice scene. That is freaking creepy. No matter what movie it's in, I love when someone goes to open their mouth and it's a different voice. And no matter what movie it's in, that one gets me a little bit. But
me right now, because I don't feel well. My voice doesn't sound like me.
Same, probably the same over here. So I get it, and that means I like it. So that's okay. But again, I feel like let's slam the book on the kids part. Let's get to the adults. But it still has my interest. It's just a lot. It is a lot in a short amount of time, and I get a little. Again, I don't really like having to stop, start. So that was kind of annoying. So I will nitpick there and say, you could have just done it a little better. That's all. But I don't hate these scenes. There's just so much shit in these scenes.
I do have one more thing that I missed in my notes about these scenes. It's something that I like that they do in films. So when they're going into the room and you see Marisol standing over the dad, it's very subtle and she creeps out. You're like, okay, that was almost scary, and then bam, she's in your face. Right. That was a jump scare done well, because you thought that you were gonna get out of it, and then it's like, nope, gotcha, bitch. Sorry.
And one positive to combat my negative about the kids part, where they're talking to each other, realizing they have to be brave, and they're going back and forth with each other, and the girls are you ready? And they're both crying back and forth. God, the acting is so fucking good there by those two. I'm really into that part. Again, I would rather it just be the adults, but kudos to those kids, man. In that scene, that pulled me in. I'm like, oh no, I don't know what's gonna happen. Well, we know that they don't die, but it's good acting by kids. So.
Mm-hmm. Before we get to the ending, something just came to my mind. I really wish Mike Flanagan would have watched Saw 4 before he'd done this movie, so he knows how to show two stories going on at the same time effectively, where it's not super duper confusing. Because at the end of Saw 4, you have the ending of 3 and 4 going on at the same time, basically.
Well, yeah. You remember where I had that ranked?
Well, it's okay. But you got to admit, though, they at least did the ending effectively.
They did it better.
It wasn't confusing as hell, All right, here's the ending, y'all. The two kids see their dad through a door they cracked open. They run to the mirror and try to smash it with golf clubs. But then we see they've only been hitting the walls beside it. Alan walks in and points a gun at Kaylee's face. and she says, "This isn't you." He says he's met the devil, and he is me. Tim hits his arm with a golf club, and then Dad starts choking Kaylee. Tim yells, "Let her go." And then Alan, he turns around, and he kneels in front of his son and tells Tim to run. And he grabs the gun by his thumb, and he shoots himself. And when he gets shot, his body knocks into the mirror, which causes that hairline crack in it that it has now. The spirits enter the office, and the spirits like yelling at the kids, but it's the alarms going off in the room. Tim is sitting in front of the mirror. He calls for Kaylee. Young Kaylee sees her mom's reflection in the mirror. She walks towards her voice and hugs her. Tim walks to the anchor switch and releases it, but then he realizes he's impaled Kaylee through the neck at the mirror. Young Kaylee tells Tim to promise, when we're both big and strong, we have to kill that thing. The police shows up to the house now. He yells her name as she dies on the mirror. We see police flashbacks of them as kids. The cops say that Tim, he's the one who called 911, and we watch the video of him pulling the switch and killing Kaylee, basically. It cuts between him younger and older yelling, "It was the mirror, it was the mirror." As the police car drives off, he sees his family, his mom, dad, and Kaylee in the house, and they're all with the reflective eyes, their spirits in the house now. I really like the ending, y'all. I think old Tim and young Tim have really, it pulls you in, when he's yelling, "It was the mirror, it was." I really like the ending, and just seeing the flashing cop lights. The ending's really good after a little bit of chaos. Crystal, this was your movie pick. Do you want to go give us your thoughts on the ending?
Sure. So the line from the dad I thought was kind of cheesy. I was like,
man, I loved it.
Really? I was like, all right, I guess. A little bit. Fine. It kind of reminded me of like, it kind of reminded me of like Dr. Loomis from like Halloween saying, talking about Michael Myers. I think that's probably what brought me out of it a little bit. I was just like, that was kind of cheesy. I wasn't really a fan of that.
It reminded me of Otis from The Devil's Reject, so I love that line.
That too, yeah,
Yep,
yeah, absolutely.
I was just going to say that.
It reminds me of that too.
Oh, whoa.
So, but I think that kind of took me out of it a little bit because I didn't not like it, but I wasn't expecting him to say that. So I think I was like, wait, what? Huh? But yes, I think the ending just completely shocked me 100%. But the thing is, like, I have a problem with it though. Like, how thick is Kaylee's neck that an anchor didn't go through and hit the mirror?
Oh, I wrote the same thing down. Exactly. How did that not crack the glass?
How did it not crack the glass even just a little bit? How did the dad flying backwards after he's shot make that little hairline fracture, but then a huge ass anchor not impaled just a little bit? Because like I'm pretty sure it went through like probably maybe the top of her spine up through like maybe her jaw. Like that's not a lot of space. It's not like it's going through your leg or something or your something like that. So I was really confused as to why. I really wish they would have added just maybe a little bit, maybe like a little nick on it, like where the anchor hit, because that was really confusing. Another thing I had a problem with, if this mirror was so smart and this mirror can manipulate reality so much, why didn't it do something with the anchor before they hit the kill switch? So I was kind of confused about that, because I really wish that, I don't know, I understand that it had to go with the movie and had to eventually kill Kaylee, but if the mirror is so smart that it can manipulate reality, then how did it keep the anchor there the whole time? But I don't know, maybe that was his plan the whole time, was to manipulate her to walk up to the mirror to save itself, kind of thing. But yeah.
My thing, I think, and I may be off here, but what I got from it is that it could manipulate the people, but it really couldn't manipulate. I mean, if they were thinking about doing it, like it could manipulate them happening. But if it was like the guy getting thrown into it and cracking it, he couldn't. It's almost like that wasn't like a foreseen thing. She didn't plan on doing that. So to me, I don't think so. I think that her plan would have worked to begin with, if it would have just boom happened, because I don't think that it can stop things like that. It could only just manipulate the people, I guess. That's the way I took it.
And electricity, because if you remember, that's why she had things running on different circuits for the electricity, but the anchor timer was actually not on electricity. It wasn't electric.
That's right. It was the timer.
Because that's how it was foolproof, right?
But not really foolproof.
Right.
What Kaylee should have done is took that mirror to the Ed and Lorraine Warren's house and put in that damn room. That's just my opinion.
Final answer.
You could have
Go ahead,
definitely
Mike.
pulled it into that universe. Okay, my thoughts are kind of short here. Please don't hate me. I saw this ending coming from a mile away. I'm sorry.
I hate you.
Oh, I didn't.
I knew. I just knew. Well, I knew that Tim would be the accidental killer again. Like, I just started to predict it as the movie got along. And look, I'm not like some genius or anything. I could feel it coming, and it did happen that way. And I knew that I had a feeling that Kaylee would die. Now, I didn't know how they were going to use the anchor. I knew the anchor would be important, but I agree with what you said. Kind of sounds like, okay, sometimes the mirror is a little ambiguous. Sometimes I think that's a creative choice and it works really well. And sometimes I think it's a fallback for plot holes. That kind of bugs me a little bit. So I think there's a balance there. But it doesn't mean I don't like the ending. Sometimes the logical choice is the right way to end a movie. And I thought that it was well done. It was well acted. And it was the mirror, like Nico said, super emotional, like totally believable, totally tied in. You feel for Tim. But I did see it coming. So it took a little bit of the sting off of it for me. But it was better than the last set of 4 scenes. Like, this ending, I liked it, but I did see it coming. So that's what I have on that.
Dustin, you want to go next?
Sure. So yeah, the scene where the kids are whacking away at it and just beating up the wall, like, damn it, Nico.
You guys are so perverted. I'm just kidding.
No, I'm thinking about whenever you.
I know what
shit
you're
with The
thinking.
Shining.
I know.
Yeah.
I can't use the word whack anymore without you laughing, so I'm just gonna stop looking at you
Oh,
when I'm
that's
talking.
right, from The Shining.
You did this to yourself, Dustin. You did this to yourself.
I wasn't trying to be funny then or now. All right.
This is a lie.
Sorry, Brian.
No, I'm leaving this shit in. Keep going.
Yeah, leave it in. Whack-a-mole. Let's go.
So anyway, when the kids are beating up the drywall, I thought that did a good job of furthering the her explanation of the mirror protecting itself. And so maybe that's what it was able to do. Maybe it was able to somehow manipulate Katie's body to not go that much forward, like the anchor went through her throat, but it was able to protect itself that way. I don't know.
That's what I think, Dustin.
That's the only thing that worked.
It's the only thing that worked. But I do agree, though. I wish it would have at least left a little scar on the mirror to,
Yeah.
But that plays into my next thing. This is one of those rare occasions where I actually want a sequel, because I would like for Tim to get out and find out that someone else has the mirror. Not him try to go back and do it, but he finds out someone else has the mirror and he tries to save them from it, and he gets blamed again. But
it sounds like a mini series, like I said.
I want all the bad things in the world to happen to Tim and only Tim. But
what's wrong with you evil man, you evil man.
But once we see how the dad was actually killed, it kind of, like, I don't know, it didn't show the interrogation process of either of the witnesses or the suspect. But could Kaylee not have stood up for her brother a little bit? Like, he didn't pull the trigger. Like, the dad's the one that made
Kaylee
it.
was kind of a bitch. She wasn't really that nice to her fiance either, though. Remember
True.
Exactly.
She
You're
was
right.
kind of a bitch.
Very true.
So whatever. That's just
You're right. So, but she's gonna let her brother get pinched and do serious time in the pokey like that? Come on, what kind of sibling are you? Whether you hate your sibling or not, you stick up for him and tell the truth.
Mm-hmm.
But the sequel would have done wonders for this, though, because the ending and the beginning and the early middle, before it became a clusterfuck, I really liked it. And so I could use another storyline involving this mirror that's not an actual Oculus, which we'll get into that in the fun facts.
Oh my God, I was thinking about that the other day. Sorry.
Hey, Brian, before you go, Brian, the thing that really kind of does bother me is this movie's not short. It's like 1 hour and 47 minutes.
Right.
They had time to
flesh stuff out.
Make this flow a little less hectic.
I agree.
But, go ahead, Brian.
Oh, well, I mean, and I really liked that line, the demons are many, and I've seen the devil, and he is me. Again, to me, like, that's just the mirror kind of turning the reflection inward. And honestly, it reminded me of the line from Batman, "Whereas you ever dance with the devil in the pale moonlight," and I love that line. So maybe that's why I like it even more. Um, and plus, this is part that I thought was dumb as hell. Like, Kaylee's walking up to the mirror and hugging her mom. Literally nothing about this mirror has been good. And then suddenly, out of the blue, you believe that it's good now. So let's go hug her. And so to me, that's crazy. But there's a couple of little endings that I think I would have maybe liked a little bit better. I had the same thing about the sheer force of that thing having cracked the glass too. And honestly, I would have probably liked that better. I mean, you would have kind of got a, like, nobody wins type of ending, which I might have liked a little bit better than just the mirror winning. I kind of, I do like Kaylee dying, and I like that sacrifice of the main character, but I also think that maybe if the mirror would have been taken out too, it would have been kind of I would have maybe liked that too.
Right.
I know a lot of people probably don't like the ending, and the second Kaylee, showed the anchor and how it worked. Mike said, he knew, it would kill one of them in the end. You kind of assume that since you brought him there. But the tragedy to me, like, would be for her obsession to be the cause of her own brother's death and have it, actually kill him too. So, and then her have to live with that. So that would have been cool too. But, I mean, maybe the way it worked out was maybe better with him once again heading to the institution and nobody believing him. But I think I might have liked either of those endings a little bit better. Not to say that I didn't like this one, because I really did, but I think it would have at least been a little bit more satisfying to me anyway.
And you know where I stand on this. I like that this movie had the balls to not give me a happy ending. So thumbs up for that.
I know, it's so sad.
I enjoy when a movie can do that. Like, you know what? Screw what you want. This is what I'm giving you. I can appreciate that.
Anybody got any final thoughts before we jump into fun facts?
Why was it that the only phone call that went through was to the police? Why didn't the phone call go through for the cop? Like, I understand it was
The
because,
mirror was manipulating it.
Hey, this mirror is Hannibal. This mirror is Hannibal Lecter. It's 2 steps ahead of everybody.
Of all the people that it could have called, they called the cops.
Hannibal Specter.
Oh, jeez.
I only have one fun fact that we haven't went over tonight. Director Mike Flanagan has included the Oculus mirror as an Easter egg in most of his movies and TV shows. It's in the basement of a Ouija, Origin of Evil, the headboard in Gerald's Game, the walls in The Haunting of Hill House, and the Overlook Hotel in Dr. Sleep. Anybody else got fun facts?
No, that was mine.
I had that one, and I was just I mentioned earlier the mirror is not actually an Oculus. I was just gonna read the definition. It's a circular window or the opening at the apex of a dome. So a technicality there.
But it could have
eyeball.
it could have been the window into your soul. Maybe
That's what I was thinking too.
Or hell.
That's a good point, though.
That's true. But it's still not circular. Another thing, well, I guess technically it is.
It's in your eye too, right, or something? And you have Oculus in your eye, so maybe that could go back to the eye thing. I don't know.
Yeah. I've got 2 more. Number 1, you said why they call the police. You're right. They should have just called Peter Venkman. He would have solved this shit in a hurry.
Hurry.
Well,
Nico,
he called the doctor too, and it manipulated that. So I was just confused.
Or that woman from Don't Fuck with Cats. Sorry.
Oh my God, yeah.
Or whatever that show's called, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Last thing I have. Karen Gillan was in Guardians of the Galaxy, obviously. Her co-star in the film was Dave Bautista. Bautista held the same championship title as David Arquette. So there we go. It all comes full circle. And not to mention,
Dewey would not have solved this shit. I tell you that much. Sorry,
Dewey would have solved. You shut up.
Next
thing. Not to mention the fact that, WWE Studios made the film and WWE owns WCW, which is where Arquette held that title. So there you go. There's your David Arquette connection for this week.
I love it.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
Mike, Crystal, do y'all have any fun facts before we jump into the rating?
Y'all said them while I was, or y'all said one of the one I had about that. So go ahead.
Yeah, I
All right.
think I said them throughout the whole thing when we were
Yeah.
talking. So
All right, Crystal, this was your movie pick. Do you want to go first or last?
last.
Okay. Who wants to go first? I kind of want to know what Mike's going to shit on it. I already know. I'm kind of curious what Dustin wants to know or
I'll
has
go.
to say.
I'm not
I'll
gonna
go.
shit on it.
My man done changed his rating.
No, I haven't changed my rating. My rating's the same, I promise.
So, we'll go. Least favorite kill was Michael because, like I said, why the hell you sneaking up in an empty house like that and scared your fiance or girlfriend, whatever? You deserve to die, you creepy asshole. My favorite death was Kaylee's just because it was so well done and it was so tragic that it really drove the sadness and sorrow of this final scene home. Even though, Mr. Brains over here says that he saw it coming, I didn't. And
Sorry.
and I thought it was well done because, you see it from his point of view. There's no one standing in front of the mirror. I'm going to end it. I'm going to do it. And he kills her. For the rating, I had an initial rating, and then I rewatched it today, and I upped it by 1.5. So I actually gave this movie a 6, and it's something that I would watch again. Like you said, it's not a short film necessarily, so I don't know that I would be in a hurry to watch again, but I wouldn't turn the channel if it came on. It entertained me, and it keeps your attention because you have to give it that much attention to do. So I gave it a 6.
All right, I'll go next. Favorite kill, I agree with you, Dustin, was Kaylee. I just wrote it was very unexpected. I didn't see the ending coming the first time I watched it. My least favorite, I picked the mom, Marie. It was just a couple of gunshots, and I felt bad for her in this movie, honestly.
Yeah, me too.
My rating is an 8.5. The cons of this movie to me are the flashbacks are constant and confusing at times, and there's also not a lot of backstory on the mirror. My pros, there's not a lot of backstory on the mirror. We don't have a lot of back. All right, Michael. All right, Mike. Don't jump through the screen whenever I say this. We don't have a lot of backstory on Michael Myers. He's just evil. And I looked at this movie the
I
same
love
way
that.
to an extent. This is unique, and I really enjoy it every time. The acting is great. The slip into madness with both parents is great. The ending was oh shit worthy the first time I watched it. The ending with Tim yelling "It's the mirror" after killing Kaylee is very powerful and emotional, and I just really like this movie. It's very interesting and it's new and it's different. I like it. Brian,
Okay.
Mike, who wants to go next?
I'll go next. I have a little flow here. Okay. By the way, I love the non-backstory of Michael Myers, so you're preachers to the choir on that, brother. That actually is right.
I was just
And so,
scared. Like,
zombie-
don't you compare this to Halloween?
I'm not. Well, now that's where we're going to differ quite a bit. But I like that part of Michael Myers. I don't like the Cult of Thorns shit at all. So anyway, okay. My favorite kill is Kaylee. Really well done. Love the gore. There's a part of me that almost likes that the mirror didn't break. It's such like a statement by the mirror. So like I'm a little torn on it. Like it would have been a good thing, but it kind of works with the kill a little bit. My least favorite is the mom. A couple gunshots, like Nico said, so nothing to sneeze at there. Okay. So as far as keeping my interest, this movie does. I'm not going to sit here and say that I was ever bored, but I'm confused more than I'm entertained. And yeah, I'm a dummy. So maybe that's what it is. But there's just a little too much going on, and it is long for what it's trying to do. If you're going to be that long, I want character development, more within the story of the characters, and we just don't get it. I'm fine not getting the mirror. That's fine. I like a motiveless killer. Like that's totally fine with me. It's everything else is just kind of rushed in the last probably 40 minutes of the movie. The first hour is a slow burn, and then it's like, boom, it comes in with a gut punch. So, again, I don't hate the movie, but I feel like sometimes, like I said earlier, the mirror did it is a kind of a substitute for plot holes, and I'm not a fan of that. Okay? I mean, that's just the way that I took it. If I have a question, the mirror did it. Well, the mirror's doing everything. Like, I don't know. It didn't work for me in that way. And I already came out and said this isn't my kind of movie, but I do like the acting. I love Mike Flanagan. Like, I think he's a great director. I love Haunting a Hill House. I love Hush. I love Gerald's Game even. Like, there's a lot of good Mike Flanagan out there. This is not my favorite. I think I've made that pretty clear. But it's not bad. So on my scale, not bad. I'm going to go 5.5. 5.5. You thought I was going lower? Come on, man. No, that would be Jason Takes Manhattan. That'll be the
I
lowest.
swear to God. Anyway.
We'll battle them one day with that.
I will rewatch
Yep,
this, though.
we will.
I'm going to have to get everything, I think. So I will rewatch it.
Go ahead, Brian.
All right. So again, to me, it's a simple idea, but I love a ton of aspects of this. To me, there's not a whole lot of negatives. Like I said in the summary earlier, there's a lot of flashbacks. I think they could have cut. But really, I love how you can look at this as two different movies. I mean, you can believe that it's just a possession movie where none of the mirror stuff is really happening and these people are just crazy and, Amityville type going crazy. Or you can believe that the possession and the mirror type, and you can kind of really give arguments both ways. And I think they left it, open like that for a reason. And I really like that. Acting's amazing. Soundtrack's amazing. My best kill is definitely Kaylee as well. But my worst kill is Michael, but it's because of the fact that I just don't care about him. There wasn't enough character development for him, and he was just kind of a throwaway character, and so that was why he was my least favorite kill. And my rating for this one is an 8.
My man.
I like the balance. The balance is good. This is good balance.
So I like this film a lot, obviously. I feel like Mike Flanagan really answered the question that we all have when we watch a horror movie, which is, why don't they just go outside? Why don't they just call the cops? And he did that. And he said, here, I'm going to have the characters get out of the haunted place. I'm going to have them call the police for help. And then you're going to see that, it was all kind of messed up when they actually did that. So it's like, oh, okay. I do like the fact that they used an inanimate object in this film to create the suspense of horror. I think it's something that is much scarier than a demonic possession or things like that, because an inanimate object does not need to act. But mirrors have always scared me. Mirrors, anything with a sheet over its head, and anything with your nails. So obviously this film, Mike Flanagan was just like, let me make a film that's going to scare type of people like me. I really didn't. So I think I have to agree with Brian on both of the things that he said, but I didn't really care about the fiance. It was whatever. I guess you could say like the dog, but we never really knows what happened to the dog because it's never explained. I think it would have been funny, not funny, but like if you see like the lineup at the end, it's like all the demons, and then it like pans down, and then you see the dog. But I'd have to say my favorite would probably be Kaylee too, just because I was not expecting that to happen at all. I think as it ticked down to the last few seconds of it and we saw her reach out and hug her mom, that's when it was kind of like, oh, she's in front of the mirror. Oh, Tim's going to pull the kill switch. And then I sort of started getting it. But I was confused the whole time I was watching this film, but not in a bad way. Definitely not in a bad way. I wanted to know I think my favorite scene is when they play the video back and they see that they're actually picking up the cameras and facing them towards each other. I think that's one of my favorite scenes. I think that's when I realized that, oh shit, this film is going to be trippy. Because when you first start watching that scene, they're just talking back and forth to each other like normal. But then when they play that back, you see that they're actually moving things. And I think that's where it started to go up a couple levels for me. I'd probably give this film an 8, just like Brian. There definitely were some things that I didn't like about it. Like, I didn't like the fact that all of a sudden the mom just becomes an animal who eats plates. Didn't like that. I didn't really like... I liked how they sort of brought it all together in the end, and we see like when Tim was looking outside or looking back towards the house, he did see his sister. I honestly agree with Dustin too. I would love to see a sequel to this film. I really would.
I would be in on one too. Actually.
Yeah, I would really
Despite
love
what I
to
said.
Yeah, I would love to see a sequel to this film. But then, as I said before, the next person that would be killing people or manipulating people would be Kaylee. So, like, I don't really know how that would work. I don't know if I would like to see that, but I think that it would be interesting to give it some more knowledge. Because whenever I watch a film like this, I always want to know more. Like, what happened to Tim? What's he doing?
Right.
Did he go to jail? Because they played the video back and it looked like he killed his sister. So is he just in jail now? Like, what's going on? Did he get sent back to the mental institution? So I think that I really enjoyed this film. Like I said, there definitely could have been things that would have made it a little bit better, but I applaud it because it's different than a lot of the other films we've seen. Because there's a lot of films that start with something being possessed or an inanimate object, like a Ouija board or a button, things like that. So I would like to see a sequel. I don't think they're gonna make one, but it would be cool to see one.
I agree.
I rarely feel that way, but I agree.
Rob gonna write a sequel with a
No.
Damn it, Nico! I swear on everything. I'm on my way to Tallahassee.
I don't think he will. Mike Flanagan and Rob Zombie are so different.
Thank
you. I think it would be silly if Rob.
I'm on my way to Tallahassee right now.
Let's go, brother. Let's hang
But we
out.
as a composite, that means that we collectively give this movie a 7.2. So
sorry to drag it down. Doesn't mean I didn't like it. I just didn't like it as much as everyone else. That's all.
Hey, 7.2. That's good for us.
Yeah. See, the only reason I wouldn't have liked a sequel is because what I like about this movie is that you could, like I said, explain it away and say that they were just crazy and it wasn't paranormal whatsoever. But if they did do a sequel, it was definitely paranormal, and I think I would have drugged me down a little bit. I really like how you can go and look, and I mean, I've seen it, done a couple of times. Like every single thing is explained away, just like they were crazy or they were remembering it wrong, or the way Tim remembered it, with the dog really getting taken to the vet and not sucked into the mirror, that kind of stuff. Like, was it really just them, maybe being crazy, or what, as a crazy family, or was it, paranormal? And I think that would just take it away from me. That's all. And I think it would. I like the openness, I guess. Of being able to
I'm with you, Brian. And I'm not disagreeing just to disagree with everybody else, but sometimes some movies just need to be by itself and let it be what it is. I'm with you on that because I don't know how they do a sequel to where it takes all the mystery out of it, and I like the mystery of it. Two things I wanted to say before we get out of here. Big shout out to Karen Gillan. I was watching. I watched the 2 Jumanji movies recently, and I was watching some YouTube videos of their interviews and all that. And I had no idea she's Scottish, and she had a really thick accent. So her acting is incredible. Right. I have to give her huge props. I don't know how I can't even hide my redneck accent. How she can hide her Scottish accent's impressive. And I want to give a big shout out to a YouTuber I watch. His name is Found Flicks. He brought up a good point. He's like, this mirror is weird how it possesses people. The dad just becomes, a lost-minded dad, and then the mom becomes an animal and a dog and all that who attacks her kids.
People differently.
Right. Yeah, it's funny how the mirror just chooses how it attacks people and possesses people. I wanted to give a shout out. I thought it was kind of funny. Anybody got any other final thoughts before we jump out of here?
I do think it could be a mini series instead of a sequel because we saw Mike Flanagan make a really cool series in Haunting of the Hill House. I think same kind of style would actually be really fun, but I know it won't happen. Just a thought, though.
Oh, yeah. Crystal, really glad you picked this movie and glad you joined us. You're always a great guest.
Absolutely.
Do you got any final thoughts before you get out of here? You want to plug your show and anything?
Yeah, so you guys can find me on any podcast featured app at Horror Nights and Podcast. Pretty much the same across all platforms, Instagram. Also Twitter at Horror Daddies Are Us. I also have YouTube channel. Everything, just search Horror Nights and Podcasts and you will see my face and you can click on it. So that's it. Thank you so much for having me on again, guys. It was fun.
Thank you. Anytime. Anytime.
We'll do it again soon. I
Yeah.
just want to give a shout out to next week. We're going to actually be doing another guest episode with the two ladies from the Don't Fuck With the Original podcast. We're going to be reviewing, her name is Chucky's Side Chick, so we decided to pick a Chucky movie, Child's Play 2, the best one in the franchise, may I add.
I agree.
Disagree.
Well, have fun. She knows everything about the Chucky series, so she will take you to the ring.
It's probably going to end up being me and her versus everybody else in life.
I like
Yeah,
Child's Play 2. Okay.
Yeah, because Mike's favorite is Cult. Everybody knows that.
Shut the fuck up, dude. I want to.
Ew.
I'm gonna come out and say it on this show, so I'm say it next week. That is one of the worst fucking pieces of garbage I have ever seen. Okay.
I hate Cult of Chucky. Anywho, Crystal, we really enjoyed you joining us. We'll definitely have you out on again soon. And y'all have a good night. Hope y'all like this review. And just want to remind everybody to don't go